Maverick News presents The Rick Walker Show. Defrag your mind.
Hey everybody, I'm Rick Walker. Welcome back. I need a minute. People are saying that the show is not running over on Rumble. It says it's running on Rumble where I'm looking at it and I can see it, but some people can't see it. So give me a little bit of time here and I'll figure it out. I'll be right back.
Maverick News presents The Rick Walker Show. Defrag your mind.
Okay, I think I've got it fixed now. So, a lot of technical stuff going on here today. I messed with the phone system. We have another new phone number. So we'll try to mess with that and get you guys to call in. And I'm sure it'll work. We'll just make sure that the number is going to work for people. The new number. We have a bunch of stories for you as well. I'm fixing everything and I'm still trying to stay up to date on the news. So we know that there are new negotiations. There's a new negotiation going on to end the conflict in Gaza. We're going to lead tonight with a big story about, that ArrivCan app and the scandal surrounding that. A big blow up in the House of Commons today as Pierre Poilievre faced off with Justin Trudeau. That's a $60 million scandal. What else do we have? Oh, man. $95 billion aid package for Ukraine and Israel. That passed the Senate. So we've got all that and more coming up right here on the Maverick News Channel. And I think we're actually on all the channels now. So stay with me. We'll take another real quick break. When we come back, we'll actually start with the news of the day.
Greetings, brave Mavericks. Our quest for truth continues. We go beyond fake news. Together we expose propaganda. Together we pull others out of rabbit holes. We are maverick thinkers. We are all unique individuals. Defenders of individual rights and freedoms. Credible. Trusted. Grounded in reality. Maverick News. Defending free speech. Donate at freedomreporters.com. Do it now. Tomorrow may be too late. Maverick News. The world is watching.
Feel the vibrations. Our quest continues. The truth is out there. We are Mavericks.
Okay, I'm back, and I think we have everything working more or less properly. Let's start. A little bit of a rocky start here today. Oh yeah, also the Prime Minister of Estonia, wanted in Russia, placed on a wanted list. We'll talk about that tonight. We're going to get you a little something from Christian Freeland tonight too, talking about all that money going to mainstream media from Canada's federal government. So she addressed that. But today, let's start with this. Face Off, House of Commons, Pierre Poilievre, leader of the Conservative Party of Canada, head-to-head with Justin Trudeau on this ArriveCan app. Now, if you have not been following this story, it's huge for Canada and beyond that. And yeah, I see another notice coming in about this protest at the Jewish hospital in Toronto. We'll address that as well. I have that stuff queued up, and thank you, Leo, for just alerting me to that. Appreciate it. And we'll dig into this first, though. This ArriveCan scandal. 60 million bucks. Costs out of control. Contractors hired, and it appears they did no work. All at taxpayers' expense. The application itself, pretty much useless. Didn't do anything for anybody. Was supposed to save lives. Looks like it didn't do that at all. And here's the exchange in the House of Commons. Pierre Poilievre saying that he posted on social media today, before heading into the House of Commons, saying that he wants the RCMP to expand its criminal investigation into this scandal. Here we go.
Oral questions orales de la chef de l'opposition.
The Prime Minister and his ArriveCan app are not worth the cost or the corruption. After the revelations of corruption, waste, and so on by the Auditor General yesterday, I wrote to the RCMP to ask them to expand the criminal investigation into the ArriveCan scandal. The Prime Minister has a history of blocking criminal investigations. Will he allow the RCMP to investigate him and his ArriveCan scandal? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. The COVID-19 pandemic was something that happens once, not just once in a generation, but once in a century. And all the decisions we made were with a view to protecting Canadians. Clearly, we all expect the rules to be followed by the public service and by others, and we expect the RCMP and the authorities to do their job. But we should recall that this is the government that is concerned about border security. The Conservative Party keeps voting against assistance for CBSA, against assistance to strengthen our borders. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition. Well, when it comes to corruption, Mr. Speaker, The revelations yesterday are the following. One, that the company that benefited drafted the terms of the contract. Second, two people working in the basement of a house received $20 million under a contract for an app that should have only cost $80,000. There was also whiskey given to officials. Will the Prime Minister respect the independence of the criminal investigation? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Of course, Mr. Speaker. We will always encourage and cooperate with authorities in doing their job, and that's what they'll do. The public service must also follow the rules, and if those aren't followed, there will be consequences. We welcome with open arms the Auditor General's report. It's important to ensure that taxpayer money is being managed appropriately, even at a time when we're investing to protect Canadians from coast to coast. We still need to make sure the rules have been followed.
Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
This Prime Minister and his Arrive scam are not worth the cost or the corruption. After yesterday's Auditor General revelations of corruption, waste and mismanagement, I have written the RCMP asking them to expand their criminal investigation into the Prime Minister's Arrive scam. He has a track record of blocking criminal investigations. He tried to protect SNC-Lavalin from prosecution. He blocked the RCMP from investigating his illegal vacation to Billionaire Island. Will he stay out of the way, or will he again try to block the RCMP's criminal investigation into Arrive scam?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
The COVID-19 pandemic was a once-in-a-generation, even once-in-a-century occurrence in which every decision we took was designed to protect Canadians' lives. At the same time, Mr. Speaker, even in a situation like that, there are rules that need to be followed, and we expect, and all Canadians expect, public servants to follow those rules, and we will, of course, encourage the RCMP to do its work, but it doesn't take politicians, even leaders of the opposition, to tell the RCMP to do their job. They do their job, Mr. Speaker, and they do it well.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
They do their job unless the Prime Minister blocks them from doing that job, like he did in his criminal offense, where he committed the crime of accepting a gift from someone who was seeking a government contract from him. He blocked the RCMP from investigating him. And COVID-19 is something he saw as a once-in-a-generation opportunity to fill the pockets of his friends, whether it was the WE scandal, in which his family received $500,000, or whether it was Frank Baylis, or now the Arrive scam. Will he stay out of the way and let the police investigate him and his corrupt government in Arrive scam?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Speaker, even a few years later in the pandemic, we see the Conservative leader reverts to type. While we were focusing on protecting Canadians every possible way we could, they were peddling conspiracy theories, Mr. Speaker, about vaccinations, about what have you. So while he continues to make personal attacks, we're going to continue to make sure we're delivering for Canadians. And yes, we will make sure that all rules are followed, and there are consequences for people who broke the laws or broke the rules. But we will continue to be there for Canadians while he plays partisan games.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Proof that he's not worth the cost or the corruption. He's now calling the Auditor General a conspiracy theorist. Now that she's revealed that his Arrive scam went from $80,000 to at least $60 million and counting, that two insiders got $20 million working from their home basement from this Prime Minister, that top Liberal government officials accepted high-end whiskeys and dinners in exchange for contracts that they let the contractors write for themselves. So once again, will he stay out of the way and let the police investigate his government, or will he try to block it again?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
of the opposition needs to work on his French. I think he just needs to work on his listening skills. Because in French, 2 answers ago, I complimented and thanked the Auditor General for her work in ensuring that rules are followed and processes have consequences if they are misdone. This is a fact that we know that even during a pandemic, we need to be stepping up to protect people along the rules. That's why there will be consequences for anyone who broke those rules or those laws, while we continue to do everything we need to do to deliver for Canadians, to support people in their daily lives and build a better future for all Canadians.
The honourable member for Belleuil-Chambly.
It goes on with more questions from other members, and it pivots back to Pierre Poilievre. This could well be a major election issue. I think it depends on how long it is before we go to the polls. Anything can happen, so I just don't know. This issue has been with us for some time. The ArriveCan app, of course, was something that the government wanted everybody to download onto their phones. You were supposed to have it on. You were supposed to have it on your phone so that they could process you at the border more quickly, coming back into the country, or when you're traveling at airports and so on. But clearly, a lot of the money not accounted for. The Auditor General saying there was a blatant disregard for basic accounting principles. And now we're trying to get to the bottom of it. And while Justin Trudeau is again deflecting, shifting blame, pointing at maybe bureaucrats or others that he says were responsible, the buck stops at his desk with the PMO, his office. That's the bottom line. He has to bear responsibility for this, and we'll see if he steps up and takes responsibility. He's already indicating that he isn't. But this will come back to bite him during the election, I suspect. So keep your eyes on this one, folks. It's going to get hot.
The New World Order. Government overreach. The Great Reset. Mainstream media lies. Now more than ever, independent voices are needed. Donate now at freedomreporters.com. That's freedomreporters.com. Maverick News. The antivirus program for your mind.
Maverick News. The world is watching.
Toronto police are investigating a protest overnight at Toronto's Mount Sinai Hospital. This, of course, a protest by pro-Palestinian protesters, but one could argue that they crossed the line, and it appears the protest wasn't just about a ceasefire. It wasn't just about pro-Palestine. It was anti-Jewish by many people's estimation. They climbed scaffolding outside the hospital, Mount Sinai Hospital, of course, established largely by the Jewish community, Jewish donors. If you go to Toronto, you go to Sunnybrook, you go to Mount Sinai Hospital, You look at the donors, you look at the community that built those hospitals, and you'll see that a lot of the philanthropy, a lot of the charity, a lot of the donations, a lot of the effort to build those facilities came from the Jewish communities. And it appears the hospital was targeted specifically because of its Jewish foundations. Now, you can turn a blind eye to this stuff if you want, and you can sit there and point to what's going on in Gaza, and you can say it's all the Jews' fault, and you'd be wrong. And you can call up here and you can talk about people being blown to bits and give me all the propaganda, but you'd be wrong. Not to say that there aren't horrific things going on in Gaza, but what I'm talking about here is what we see going on in the streets of our country. What I hear every day. A definite rise in anti-Semitism, bigotry, prejudice, prejudging people based on their religion or their skin color, or for some other reason. And it's on full display, it's blatant, and it's all over the place. And it isn't just one way, it's 2 ways, 3 ways, 4 ways. There's just a whole lot of hate out there these days circulating. What the world really needs is a whole lot more love and understanding and tolerance. This is Canada. It's Canada. We're not in Gaza. We're not in Israel. We're not in Palestine. We're not in Russia. We're not anywhere else. We're right here. We're in Canada. This isn't the Canada that I remember. This is what it looked like. I don't know how does that help? That doesn't help. That doesn't help. How does this help? This doesn't help. This pisses people off. Sending a message, are you? Flying your flag after scaling the hospital? Yeah, I got a pretty good handle on what's going on. Here's a clip from Raghu Venugopal. He's a doctor, I guess. Let's listen to what he has to say. I haven't listened to the clip, but we'll give him a chance to say his piece.
So, it's a disappointing evening in front of Mount Sinai Hospital, a Jewish identified hospital in Toronto. Protesters have been on these hallowed and sacred hospital grounds to protest. And protesting in Canada is everyone's right. But according to laws of our land in Canada, you cannot protest in such a way to impede or intimidate access of healthcare workers or patients at a hospital. This is Federal Bill C-3, which has been passed into law. And I've come here with one of my colleagues to witness and to counter-protest any kind of protest in front of a hospital. Bill C-3 was passed in our Canadian Parliament unanimously by all members of Parliament that it is against federal criminal law to protest in front of hospitals, blocking access, impeding healthcare workers or patients. And I would ask that all Torontonians and all Canadians observe the decency to allow hospital workers and patients to access all hospitals, regardless of whether they have a Jewish or Catholic or any kind of identity, because these grounds are hallowed grounds. And I'm very pleased at this time that the grounds are quiet and that indeed patients and staff can access the hospital. But we must never have a situation in Canada where people, regardless of their faith or regardless of their beliefs, cannot access health care.
And I know that there have been protests involving freedom fighters who went to hospital areas, and the government became very concerned, sent police down to some of these demonstrations, worried that the freedom protests might result in people being blocked from getting into the hospitals, but never did I actually witness that happen. Not hospitals, but it happened there. People scaled the building. People scaled the building. Absolutely ridiculous. People better open the other eye, better start to wake up. I'll be right back.
Feel the vibrations. Our quest continues. The truth is out there. We are Mavericks.
Okay. I know that Premier Doug Ford also spoke out on this demonstration overnight at Mount Sinai Hospital. I had a clip from him, but it has sort of slipped away from me. We might bring that to you in just a little while. But enough said for the moment. We'll move on. Alberta RCMP have charged one of their own, and they've laid charges against this guy for accessing public police records and possibly assisting a foreign national. Information that it appears may have gone back to the Republic of Rwanda. So this frontline RCMP officer has been charged as part of a national security investigation. RCMP is saying its Federal Policing Integrated National Security Enforcement Team, INSET, arrested this officer because they accessed non-top secret RCMP record systems to assist this foreign actor. Constable Eli Nadatju has been charged with breach of trust, unauthorized use of a computer, and breach of trust with respect to safeguarded information. The officer's first court appearance is set for March 11th. It will happen in Calgary Provincial Court. So police say they learned of the security breach and implemented measures to monitor, mitigate, and manage any further unauthorized disclosures of information. Police going on in a statement released to media saying, quote, that foreign interference takes on many forms, and it is critical that all organizations are aware of the potential harm at any levels. Any suspected foreign interference activities can be reported, by the way, to either your local police department if you have any information on this kind of thing going on, or to the RCMP's National Security Information Network. They have a toll-free number at 1-800-420-5805, 1-800-420-5805. So when I first saw that story, the first thing that came to mind was China. That was before they gave us the details on what really went down or seemed to have happened. And now we're finding out that it wasn't China at all, and I never reported that. I'm just saying that, that's why you need to wait for information to come forward, because I was just making a personal assumption on that, and I thought, must be China. No, Rwanda. That is to be the country that was involved. So also tonight, the Prime Minister of Estonia has been placed on a wanted list in Russia. And this is because of Estonia's efforts to remove monuments from World War II, from the Soviet era. They're not the only country doing it. I think Lithuania is also involved in that kind of activity. So this raises tensions again between Russia and NATO countries, the West. So the Prime Minister of Estonia is Kaja Kallas, and she is now on a wanted list. She has responded by saying it's nothing surprising. And to kind of give you some context to this, I went back and I found some additional information. This goes back about a year ago when a lot of these efforts were really ramped up. And here's a report from Euronews. So I'm going to run this for you, and it explains, keep in mind that this is not today, this is from a year ago, but it explains what's really going on with regard to the removal of these monuments. You see, these are Soviet-era monuments. These are honoring communism and Russia and its involvement in the efforts to fight in World War II as really an ally of the West. But you have to remember that these monuments are really more about what happened during the Cold War, the Soviet era, the time of communism. And it's interesting, to see this happening, because we're being told that we're suffering from Russophobia. And we're being told that Russia has changed. And I believe that. I don't think that Russia today is the Russia that we had during the Soviet era. But there's still a lot of communists in Russia. There's still a lot of people in Russia who have an affinity for communism. And I think that those currents run strongly through the existing government still today. And as a result, we're seeing this now. It makes me wonder how far Russia really, how far away or how far removed current day Russia really is from the old Soviet Union. It's thrown up a red flag for me. While Tucker Carlson goes to Russia and talks about, and has Vladimir Putin essentially sit there and say that Russia has no desires to expand, that he doesn't want to expand the borders of Russia, and talks about sovereignty, talks about Ukraine really historically being part of Russia, that it really doesn't have a right to self-determination, that essentially it is within Russia's sovereign domain. And now this. Well, he talks about his opposition to an international rules-based order, talks about Russia having the right to self-determination and sovereignty, to be its own nation state, and criticizes Western leaders for, I guess, trying to impose their will through a unified consensus, an international rule of law that all countries are supposed to agree to. And I get it, I understand that. But while he's sitting there talking about Russia's right to sovereignty and saying that no other country really has the right to impose its will or its laws over Russia, now he turns around and says that the Prime Minister of Estonia is wanted for memory crimes, they're calling them. Memory crimes, because Estonia is removing monuments honoring communism during the Soviet era. And they're not the only former Soviet bloc country to be doing this. In addition to that, I'm seeing within the last 24 hours, and I don't know how current this is, but I saw a post and a release saying that now Russia is demanding the extradition of Yaroslav Hunka, the Nazi that appeared in Canadian Parliament, because they want to bring him to justice. Canada is refusing because there is no extradition treaty between Canada and Russia. But who is meddling in whose affairs now? What authority does Russia have over the affairs of Canada at all? We're a sovereign country. Oh, I know people are out there saying Canada's not a real thing, that it's just a corporation, and that's a bunch of bunk. That's a bunch of propaganda too. That's people being fed a line to try to undermine the sovereignty of Canada, to try to get people to try and convince you that Canada's not even a real thing. And what do you think happens once enough people start to believe that crap? You better be damn careful who you're listening to and what you're starting to believe. If you really believe that Canada is not a real country, you're being fed a line of propaganda. And I know exactly where it's damn well coming from, too. Wake the hell up. You keep all these people, all you guys out there, you walk around saying, wake up. You all gotta wake up. And then you sit there and say Canada's not a real country. You're going to miss it when it's gone. Because it sure as hell is a real goddamn country. Anybody telling you otherwise is lying to you. It's a giant lie. Huge. And I know that probably 50% of you out there listening to me right now believe it. You're being tricked. It's a lie. It's a lie. 100%. If you believe it, go get your head out of the sand. Because if you don't, you're going to wake up in a few days and you're going to see that the whole damn thing is gone. And you're not going to like what comes in to fill the vacuum. Wake up. That's right. Wake up. Russia has no jurisdiction here. Zero. We can deal with our affairs our way. The United States also has no jurisdiction here. Zero. What protects us is the fact that we are a sovereign nation. No other country tells us what to do. just as we don't tell Russia what to do. Oh, we may criticize, and they may criticize us. We may have differences of opinion. But thank you very much. We will deal with our affairs here. Yaroslav Hunka will remain in Canada, and we will deal with it here, in our way, whether you like it or not, and whether you like the outcome or not. And the Prime Minister of Estonia is the Prime Minister of a sovereign country. That's a fact. This is the report from a year ago. And I'll tell you this, if a sovereign country wants to put up or take down monuments of any kind, that's a decision that is made by the people in that country, the citizens of that country, the governments of those countries, of those sovereign nations. Simple as that. Maybe you don't like it, maybe you do. But it's up to the people of those countries whether monuments stay up or down. Regardless of the politics or the religion, whether I agree with, the politics of it or not, the reality is Estonia is its own country, and they have every right to put up or take down monuments as they see fit, just as we do here in Canada, just as you do in the United States. If you want Confederate monuments up, you put them up. If you want them down, you take them down. It's all decided by the citizens, the people of the community, because we do have a government. We do have governments of the people, by the people, for the people. It's called democracy. People get upset when they don't get what they want. But that's democracy. You don't always get what you want, and life isn't always fair. And if you want something, you have to fight for it. Peacefully, democratically, demonstrate, vote. Get active. And quit your damn belly aching. And quit listening to people who are frickin' lying to you. And there's a whole lot of lying going on right now. All the way around. But the biggest lie I've heard in a long time is Canada's just a corporation. Here's the report.
A Soviet T-34 tank being removed from its plinth in the city of Narva in Estonia on Tuesday. It was taken down on the orders of the government after the city council opted out of the decision-making process. Estonia is debating the future of its remaining Soviet-era monuments, a conversation that was sparked by Russia's invasion of Ukraine.
Under our constitution, internal peace is the centre value of the Estonian state, and the defence of internal and external peace is one of its primary tasks. We will not give Russia the opportunity to use the past to disturb the peace in Estonia. And that is why these monuments, which were used in information warfare, need to be removed as a matter of urgency for the sake of domestic peace.
The tank from Narva has now been transported to a museum dedicated to the country's military history, one of several that has been moved to cemeteries or institutions. But the government has had to act cautiously. The riots and cyber attacks on state infrastructure following the 2007 removal of a Soviet World War II memorial in Tallinn, known as the Bronze Soldier, are still fresh in people's memories.
Yeah. So, Estonia. It's a sovereign country. Now, you can have various views on Ukraine too, right? I've said all along that the war there never had to happen. It shouldn't have happened. It was a miscalculation for sure by the West to push in there. Probably should have just left well enough alone. Hard to know who to believe when you really dig into it and start listening to people on both sides of the issue. But here's the thing. Ukraine, the question is, does Ukraine have a right to self-determination? Is Ukraine its own country? The borders around Ukraine, are they valid? Are they legitimate? Or is Ukraine, should it be, was it always, is it part of Russia? This is what's in dispute. Should the people of Ukraine be allowed to determine their own destiny, make their own rules, run their own country? Now, I've said if you live right next door to a superpower, you have to be mindful of that. There are certain limitations on what you can do simply because you live next door to a superpower. You can't expect that here in Canada we could have, say, China come in here and put a bunch of missiles along the border pointing directly over the border at the United States. The United States isn't going to tolerate it. I'm aware of that. Ukraine's in a similar position. That's why NATO should have kind of stayed away. Nevertheless, do you honor the borders there? Does Ukraine have its own right as a sovereign nation to determine its own destiny, make its own rules, its own laws? Does Estonia? Does Lithuania? Does Germany? After World War II, when these countries were defeated, rules changed. What about Japan? China? China's its own state, right? Its own country. All these countries in the East, I mean, they talk about sovereignty, the need for sovereignty. They complain about the United States asserting its authority and becoming militaristic around the world. I disagree with the expansionary policies as well, but it's complicated. The problem is we're getting, I think, a skewed perspective on a lot of this stuff right now. It's all very one-sided, and it's because on the NATO U.S. Western side, we have a greater degree, not a lot these days, but a greater degree of free speech. And as a result, as part of that democratized speech, free speech, the West is open to a lot of criticism and self-criticism. But on the other side, you have a lot more censorship. They control the information on the other side. And so you don't get the same level of criticism of the other side. A lot of what goes on over on the other side, I think, is hidden. And the reality is there's bad stuff going on all over the place, on all sides. And I'll tell you this, I mean, I've said before, the chaos here, give me the chaos. Give me the criticism. Give me the various points of view. Give me the disruptive behavior. Give it all to me, because it tells me that we're still living in something close or closer to a free society. With democracy and freedom comes a pretty high level of chaos, conflict, because we're in constant struggle for power among competing political groups, because the people always have the right to choose and change. But in an authoritarian regime, or where there isn't as much democracy, you get maybe more stability, more consistency over many years, because you can have Coke or you can have Coke. But in the West, you can have Coke, Pepsi, RC, No Name Cola, 7-Up, Sprite. Okay? It's not to be taken literally. You see, you have all these different political flavors. And for 4 years, you could have Sprite, and then for 4 more years, you could have Pepsi. We tend to pick Coke or Pepsi. Rarely do we pick an NDP-flavored lemon lime soda. And in the United States, it's always Republican or Democrat. But I'll take the chaos. What I'm saying is, there are a whole lot of people out there right now trying to tear everything down, both internally and externally. I hear a lot of people saying, we got to save the country. How are you going to do that? Oh, we're going to tear it down. The whole thing's corrupt and it's wrong and the system sucks. We're just going to tear it all down. You going to save any part of it? No! Oh. Yeah, because a lot of people see this turmoil, especially since the pandemic, as an opportunity. They're political opportunists, and they are eager to rip it all apart. And rarely do I hear the people that I find most highly suspect in all of this, rarely do I ever hear them telling us what it is they're actually offering. What they do is engage in a lot of fear-mongering, get everybody jacked up, angry. Well, they build up a high level of distrust in every aspect of our society and every aspect of our institutions, while criticizing others for saying that they're doing just that. I remember, not long ago when people were like upset because the people on the left, they don't love our country. They hate our country. Have you listened to yourself lately? Regurgitating a lot of the rhetoric and propaganda that's being fed to us? And then ask yourself, does that sound like the kind of talk that leads to people loving their country? Something's wrong. Really wrong. There right now. We need to restore pride in our country. And you know what? I see the problems with the current government in Canada, and I certainly see the problems with the current regime in the United States under Joe Biden. I see the problems. But you still got to love your country, man, because it's the best thing ever. Sorry to say, for those of you who think that, it's improper or politically incorrect to say that, because America's not exceptional. Yes, it is. So is Canada. And it's sure as hell worth saving. Not the current governments. They need to be held accountable for their political sins. But the country itself, Western society, the underpinnings of freedom, real, true freedom, that's what needs to be saved. Because the Canada that I knew, the United States that I knew, that I know is still out there somewhere. It's not, these are not communist countries. They are not fascist countries. Oh, there are elements of those political ideologies and systems within. But really? Canada and the United States were neither of those things. Never were. I fear we're inching closer and closer to, well, I don't fear it, I see it. We're rolling headlong into a convergence with both of these ideologies coming together and forming this neo-socialism, this authoritarian communo-fascism. People are embracing it because the economy is not great. People are eager for something. Because socially, everything has been eroded by the political forces out there that really come from those extreme roots. But that's not where we were, not during my lifetime. And I'll tell you, I'm getting old. I've been alive for about 1/3 of the existence of the country, yes, country of Canada. I've been around a while. Last night, Gail said that she took note of my my knowledge of history, and I thought, I don't know that much about it. I am history. I'm so old. I'm getting to turn into mold. I'm living history. I was thinking about my dad the other night. You know, he's just got so much wisdom, and he's been around a long time too. I thought we should get him on the show just to tell us what it was like when he was a kid. I know he doesn't remember much about World War II, but he was alive. Grew up during those times. We need to extract those stories from the people who are still with us so that we remember, lest we forget. And we are forgetting. It's really bothering me, guys. Even people who keep regurgitating the history and throwing it in front of us. It's selective. It's designed to undermine everything that we are, everything that we were, everything that we aspire to be. Because, as I've said, some people are missing the point when it comes to history. You need to learn from your history so that you don't repeat it. But it's very clear to me that some people are determined to do just that. Repeat it. I saw it climbing the walls of that hospital. This time, I fear the United States won't be there to save the world. Oh, I know, Russia saved the world. Russia saved the world. So did the United States. Thank God for the US of A. in World War II. A country that wasn't communist, nor was it Nazi. Thank God for Britain. Thank God for Canada. Countries that made a difference when it counted. Not just during World War II, but afterward as well during the Cold War. Thank God. Tear the monuments down if you want. Doesn't bother me a bit. Because I'll tell you what. You know what I love? I love my country. It isn't perfect. It's got serious problems. We've got politicians that are abusing things, and yep, they need to be and they will be held accountable. Properly, legally, and they'll be held accountable at the ballot box. It's just a matter of time. But I love my country because I love my freedom. I just love freedom. True freedom. Let's get it back.
Maverick News. The world is watching.
Okay, hang on. I'm just getting some stuff queued up, and I'll be right back.
Feel the vibrations. Our quest continues. The truth is out there. We are Mavericks.
Maverick News. The world is watching.
We're back. And, oh, you know what? This is just a little something for Ontario residents where I live. It won't be long with this, my American friends, but in Ontario, the government is getting rid of annual license plate renewals. It's going to be automatic. They're going to introduce automatic renewals for license plates as police report a surge in the number of drivers with expired credentials. So everybody's license plates are going to be automatically renewed unless you have outstanding fines to pay, traffic tickets that you haven't paid up on, things like that. Otherwise, your license plates will be renewed automatically. This is coming soon. Not exactly sure when that will happen. We don't have an exact date, but it's coming. And personally, I'm all for it, folks, because I just can't stand standing in line down at the government office every couple of years to get my license plates renewed. It just drives me crazy. It's like, it just seems like such a waste of time. So that's a little piece of good news. Also, tonight, Israeli ground forces are expected very soon to invade in the Rafah area, and a lot of concerns surrounding that. Also, the Senate has passed a $95 billion foreign aid bill for Ukraine, Israel, and Taiwan. More than 20 Republicans defied former President Donald Trump, who fervently spoke out against the bill. It now faces an uncertain future in the House. The Senate voted 70-29 to approve the bill. Earlier today, 22 Republican senators supporting it. Trump opposed to it. It's a hot button issue, and I know that the Republicans who are opposed to it are still going to try to stop it at the next step. And I understand why. They feel it's a fool's errand. But we'll see how far it goes as it's sent over to the House. So All that being said, over at the White House, during today's press briefing, Admiral Kirby addressed the question of this imminent invasion into Rafah by Israeli forces with, I think, about 1.5 million people in Gaza sort of in there and not clear where those people might be able to flee to in advance of the pending ground invasion, which Israel says is coming. So there's that going on, a lot of concern around it. And also, though, on a more positive note, we are seeing tonight that there are talks underway, possibly aimed, that could possibly lead to an end to the conflict in Gaza. So that's a very positive development. Let's pick up Admiral Kirby during this press briefing now at the White House. Here we go, Admiral Kirby.
There should be a credible and executable plan in place to safeguard civilians in Rafah before Israel were to launch any kind of ground invasion. In the White House view, what would a credible plan look like? How would you ever realistically move 1.4 million people out of the way?
I think what first of all, they'd be the ones that have to come up with this plan. I think what we want to see in any kind of a plan to make it credible would be to account for, as I think MJ was asking me yesterday, to account for the now more than 1 million people, some estimates up to 1.5 million that are seeking refuge in Rafah. It's a small geographical space, the Gaza Strip, period. It's really small down there around Rafah, and you got 1 million to 1.5 million people that are seeking safety. And so any credible plan that could be executable would have to take into account their physical movement, safe movement, as well as proper subsistence for them. Food, water, medicine, access to health care, and be able to stay together as family units. So all of that would have to be factored in.
Does the White House believe there is any possible plan out there that would be executable given the infrastructure situation within Gaza right now?
Again, we haven't seen what the Israelis are thinking or what exactly they're putting pen to paper on. Prime Minister Netanyahu said that he had tasked his army, the IDF, to do exactly that. So we'll see what they come up with.
On this funding fight, obviously you're urging Congress to act. You all have been fairly optimistic, but realistically, Speaker Johnson doesn't seem to have any interest in bringing up this bill to fund Ukraine and Israel. So what is Plan B? Is there a Plan B if Congress doesn't get this done?
I won't get into hypotheticals. I think the president was very clear in his statement. It's really important that the House now take this up and get it to his desk. As Karine said, if it gets to his desk, he'll sign it. It's critical. This, as we've said before, we said it when we submitted the supplemental back in October. There is no magical pot of money from which to draw to try to support these allies and these partners, and to try to support, oh, by the way, significant humanitarian assistance needs, not just in Gaza, but elsewhere around the world. Congress needs to act. They need to be the ones to move forward.
But are you seeing any cause for optimism that Congress is actually going to do anything? Well, so far, it certainly doesn't seem like the Speaker is moving in that direction.
I think today's a pretty optimistic sign that it got through the Senate. That's not an insignificant milestone. And again, we're grateful for the bipartisan leadership in the Senate. Now it's time for the House to act the same way.
And can you just say broadly, if this doesn't get done, this lack of funding, not to mention Trump's recent comments about NATO, what message broadly is this sending our allies and the world about our ability to follow through on our commitments? Can we be trusted?
It sends messages. If we don't get this done, it sends messages not just to allies and partners, but to potential adversaries as well, that the United States can't be counted on, that we're not interested in being a leader on the world stage, that we aren't going to be able to stand by our commitments to allies and partners who are fighting really critical fights here. Israel's in a fight literally for their lives, and the Ukrainians are too, for their democracy. So I think it sends a strong signal to the whole world that perhaps certain members of Congress aren't willing to show and demonstrate the kind of American leadership on the world stage that President Biden has.
Jake Sullivan yesterday met virtually with the families of the 6 American hostages who are in Gaza. And in a statement after that meeting, the hostage family said that they expressed frustration with the pace of negotiations. Does the White House share in that frustration?
We would love nothing more, Arlette, than to have every single hostage back with their families yesterday and the day before that. We are working with a real sense of alacrity and urgency here to try to get an extended pause in place. But it's been difficult. I can't blame, nobody can blame these families for being frustrated and for being anxious and being fearful. Of course they are. Anybody would, any of you would. And I think one of the things that Jake conveyed to them was how seriously we're taking the task and how hard we are working at it. And again, as I said earlier, we believe that the discussions have been constructive and that in general things seem to be moving in the right direction, but nothing is done until it's all done.
Is something standing in the way from things moving faster?
I won't get into the bits about negotiations and what the points are that are still being horse traded, but there are in fact active discussions going on about certain modalities that would have to take place to make this work. And again, I think the less said about that publicly, the better.
And then if I could just on Ukraine really quickly, does the president plan on making any personal appeal to the House Speaker, a phone call, or having him at the White House?
I'm not aware of any personal appeal, although in terms of like today, although as you know, the Speaker was here at the White House and had a chance to hear directly from not only President Biden, but his national security team about the importance of supporting Ukraine and Israel going forward, how important this supplemental funding was. So the Speaker certainly has heard directly from the President.
A couple more.
Thank you so much. I would have two questions on Gaza. The first one, yesterday during his remarks with the King of Jordan, the President said over 27,000 Palestinians have been killed in this conflict, and this is the death count that has been made public by Hamas. So do you confirm that this death toll is accurate and can be seen as the official death toll in Gaza? Have you been able to verify this figure?
The President was referring to publicly available data about the total number of casualties, and as he said, too many of that total number, unfortunately, are innocent civilians. He was referring to publicly available data.
And my next question is, when the administration asked Israel to come up with a credible plan to protect civilians before it launches a major offensive in Rafah, does that mean that until now you think that Israel has been operating with a credible plan to protect civilians in northern Gaza, for example?
Again, we're not, it's hard to, I don't want to get into armchair quarterbacking past operations here. That said, as you saw when they operated in North Gaza and then as they started to operate more in Khan Yunis, they did take steps to allow safe passage for civilians. They dropped leaflets telling them where to go and how to get there. They relied less on air power. So there were efforts. That does not mean, and it does not excuse any single civilian casualty. They're all tragedies. We don't want to see any. But the Israelis have shown an effort in the past to try to account for the movement and the safety of civilians. And again, as they ponder and consider major operations in Rafah, now with everybody moving down there because of what happened in North Gaza, because of what happened in Khan Yunis, they have a special added burden to make sure that they can provide for their safety and security and sustenance.
Thank you. I have a question about Venezuela, but first about the Vice President traveling to the Munich Security Conference this week. How important do you think the situation in the Middle East is going to be during the conference, and what kind of support the U.S. would like to get from allies for Ukraine?
There's no doubt that what's going on in the Middle East, I'm sure, will be a topic of discussion at the Munich Security Conference. There's no way it wouldn't, and I know the Vice President will have an opportunity to lay out again the administration's approach to the region writ large, as well as our work, continue work with our counterparts in the Middle East specifically.
And about Venezuela, sorry, do you have a reaction?
Okay, enough. We're starting to pivot into other areas now. Joe Biden says President Donald Trump, his remarks on NATO are un-American. Trump, of course, saying that just a couple of days ago, he said that if he gets back in the White House, well, actually, he was talking really about when he was president, but you can overlay that into where he wants to go, saying that if NATO countries don't pay their bills, he wouldn't defend them. And in fact, he said he would go further and encourage Russia to do whatever the hell it wants to these NATO countries if they don't pay up and pay their fair share for defense as part of the NATO alliance. Joe Biden saying that the comments from Trump are dangerous. I think we have a clip here ready to roll, yes? Let me just bring this up so we can get this clip of Biden in his response. I haven't heard it, so we'll see if he actually manages to mumble his way through without screwing it up too much. I mean that in the most respectful way.
Bill was passed in the Senate last night. But in recent days, those stakes have risen. And that's because the former president has sent a dangerous and shockingly, frankly, un-American signal to the world. Just a few days ago, Trump gave an invitation to Putin to invade some of our allies, NATO allies. He said if an ally didn't spend enough money on defense, he would encourage Russia to, quote, do whatever the hell they want, end of quote. Can you imagine a former president of the United States saying that? The whole world heard it. The worst thing is he means it. No other president in our history has ever bowed down to a Russian dictator. Well, let me say this as clearly as I can. I never will. For God's sake, it's dumb, it's shameful, it's dangerous, it's un-American. When America gives its word, it means something. When we make a commitment, we keep it. And NATO is a sacred commitment. Donald Trump looks at this as if it's a burden. When he looks at NATO, he doesn't see the alliance that protects America and the world. He sees a protection racket. He doesn't understand that NATO is built on the fundamental principles of freedom, security, and national sovereignty. Because for Trump, principles never matter. Everything is transactional. He doesn't understand that the sacred commitment we've given works for us as well. In fact, I would remind Trump and all those who would walk away from NATO, Article 5 has only been invoked once, just once in our NATO history, and it was done to stand with America after we were attacked on 9/11. We should never forget it. You know, our adversaries have long sought to create cracks in the alliance. The greatest hope of all those who wish America harm is for NATO to fall apart. And you can be sure that they all cheered when they heard Donald Trump, when they heard what he said. I know this, I will not walk away. I can't imagine any other president walking away. For as long as I'm president, if Putin attacks a NATO ally, the United States will defend every inch of NATO territory.
I don't like any of the options.
Maverick News. The world is watching.
Probably the best reporters CBS had was Catherine Herridge. Not anymore. She's got fired, laid off. Number of reports about that tonight. This in the Post-Millennial. Breaking, respected American journalist Catherine Herridge has just been fired by CBS after her recent reporting, including this. And this is making reference to her last report on CBS involving allegations in the Biden classified documents case, as you can see here. Let me bring the documents up. Now, I know that CBS is going through some layoffs, and depending on which version of the story you look at, you can draw different conclusions. Is she just caught up in the layoffs? Perhaps. But some are obviously leading us to think that maybe she was targeted through the layoffs because of these reports that she'd been doing, and most recently on this here about Joe Biden and his documents scandal, which of course led to these ongoing questions about his mental capacity, with the prosecutors saying, well, you know, he's not really all there, so we can't really charge him. Anyway, we'll continue to follow that. I expect Catherine Herridge will land on her feet. Someone will want her, and even if she goes out and works independently, I'm sure she still has a bright future ahead of her. And as CBS changes direction and fires or lays off whatever, probably the best reporter they've had in a long time. Canada's Deputy Prime Minister was asked today if the federal government in Canada will consider pulling funding from Bell Media CTV after announcing 4,800 layoffs across the country, which has resulted, and of course they own not just television and radio stations, but also internet properties, the phone system, cable companies, satellites. So 4,800 across the corporation. And that also involves radio stations, television stations. They're going to liquidate 45 radio stations and get rid of a number of newscasts. They're even discontinuing the W5 investigative journalism program, which has been award-winning and has been around for decades. A staple as part of the CTV journalistic brand. Great teams over there, and that whole unit is being folded in a downsized form into just the general news operation, but it will not be W5 as its own standalone program anymore. It's gone. All this while the government was being given millions, what the government was giving, is giving still millions and millions of dollars, I believe $100 million to mainstream media outlets in order to support journalism, in order to make sure that politicians, government is held to account, apparently. But when asked today if the government will consider pulling back on that kind of support for this massive corporation, Bell Media, which owns probably half of all the media properties in the country, this was Chrystia Freeland's response, Deputy Prime Minister of Canada.
Is he Gray at Global? Hi, Ms. Freeland. Last week, the Prime Minister had a very passionate response about the Bell layoffs. He said it was a garbage decision from a company that should know better. I assume the budget is around the corner, and you'll know that Bell gets lots of tax credits and other breaks from the federal government in a federally regulated industry. Are you willing to remove Bell's eligibility in that to show the federal government's displeasure with what happened?
So everyone sitting in front of me, and one of the people sitting here is a journalist. I used to be a journalist. It is heartbreaking for me as a journalist and now as an elected leader to see that announcement. And it's heartbreaking because Canadian journalism is foundational for Canadian democracy. We can only be a country that works if we have you guys telling our stories, holding our feet to the fire. And we need you to do it across the country, from coast to coast to coast. We can't have news deserts. You have seen from our government a commitment to journalism, a commitment to communities across the country, in big cities and in small towns. Democracy has to happen everywhere. And we are definitely looking at ways going forward that we can support journalism and journalists across the country. I don't have anything to announce there, but it's so important.
Bell's one of Canada's largest companies. They laid off 9% of the workforce on the same day they raised their dividend for the 20th straight year. Do you think that's an ethical way to do business for one of Canada's biggest companies?
I do want to come back to journalists and journalism. For me, that is at the heart of this issue. The work that journalists do, telling our stories, telling Canada's story in this challenging world, is absolutely essential. We cannot be a functional democracy without it. And Canada is huge and vast, and we need journalists across the country. Look, you guys know this. It is a very tough time for journalism. We recognize that, and we're going to be there to support journalists and journalism. And then the other thing I'll say is this. We need companies in Canada who are investing in Canada and in Canadians. At our press conference last week, one of you asked me about productivity and the need for more investment in Canada. I believe we need more investment. The government is doing a lot to drive investment. I talked about the Canada Growth Fund and the really important work it's doing to fill some of the gaps and to encourage, to crowd in private sector investment to the green transition. But I am going to take the opportunity your question affords me to say to Canadian CEOs, we believe in you. We want strong Canadian headquartered companies in this country. And we need you to believe in Canada. And we need you to be investing in the productive capacity of this country, whatever sector you're in. And yeah, I would like to see a lot more of that.
If we can squeeze in one last question before.
Well, that was a great big non-answer, but I think the answer is they're just going to keep the money flowing. Now, I would think that if they liquidate those 45 stations, whoever picks them up, whoever buys them and operates them, then the money would go to the new owners, that portion of it, however the program works. But honestly, I don't think that this expenditure is wise. You're seeing what CTV just did. They increased their profits, took the government money, and then they cut staff. I used to work there, you know. Yeah, I know how it goes. I know how it goes. And you know, here's an interesting story. Did you know that Byron Allen, the guy who used to be on that show Real People, a long time ago, I didn't realize how rich this guy got. I don't know how these people do it, honestly. He's making a bid to buy ABC for $10 billion from Disney. Now, I know that he owns a media company. He owns a bunch of television and radio stations, cable companies, a bunch of media assets. At one time, he was doing through a media company that he started, he was doing a show, as I recall. It was an entertainment-based show. He was trying to do it at low cost. And he was doing programming similar to what I do with my company. And he didn't do as well as me because I'm like living in poverty, but he went bankrupt, or at least his business just about went belly up. But he battled back. I guess at one point he was so destitute that he was doing business from a phone booth. But somehow this guy battles back, makes tons of money, now has enough to make a bid to buy ABC for $10 billion with a B dollars. How do you go from being broke to a multi-billionaire? I don't know, but he's got the Midas touch. Here, let me bring it up and show you. Just an interesting story. I don't know if this will happen or not. I guess Disney will have to decide if they're actually going to sell to him. $10 billion bucks. There he is. There's the guy, Byron Allen. You remember him? You know, he got his start on the Johnny Carson show when he was really young. I think he was the youngest person ever to appear on the Carson show back in the day. Anyway, interesting stuff. He also, I think he wanted to buy the Broncos. I think they mentioned that in here somewhere. Yeah. So here's a guy who has been in the entertainment business a long time. Done real well for himself. He has made real, advances and improvements, and has done a lot for his community. And here's the thing. In spite of all the people calling up here of late telling me that all the media is controlled by Jewish people, I don't think he's Jewish. Doesn't look Jewish to me. Name doesn't sound Jewish. I don't think he's Jewish. I don't know. Kind of weird, eh? How could that be? How could somebody making a bid for ABC for $10 billion not be Jewish? Pretty weird. Because I was told they just own everything. Isn't that weird? And you know, as I think back at who I worked for over the years, there was one Jewish family, but those people were from Poland. Yeah, that family. Oh yeah. One with all the rest. No, I don't remember any Jewish people owning the media outlets that I worked for. Anyway, just saying, kind of weird. Kind of weird. Somebody out there might just be lying.
Feel the vibrations. Our quest continues. The truth is out there. are Mavericks.
Greetings, brave Mavericks. Our quest for truth continues. We go beyond fake news. Together we expose propaganda. Together we pull others out of rabbit holes. We are maverick thinkers. We are all unique individuals, defenders of individual rights and freedoms, credible, trusted, grounded in reality. Maverick News, Maverick News. Defending free speech, free speech. Donate at freedomreporters.com. Do it now. Tomorrow may be too late. Maverick News. The world is watching.
Okay, we have a new phone number. It's gonna work. It's gonna work. I know it's gonna work. So we're gonna try the new phone number. We're gonna go to the phones. You guys can call in. This will work. I know it'll work. I just hope that it works well for you. I'm going to put the new number up on the ticker on the bottom. See down there? That scrolling ticker tape? 1-902-200-4222. You can call in now. Let me just get this phone line fired up for you. Let's see if this works better than it did last night. It's not quite up yet, so give me a moment. Get ready to dial that number. 1-902-200-4222. And we'll get the show started here. You guys can weigh in on the conversation. What I would really like, I mean, we can talk about pretty much anything you want, as usual, but what I would really like is for you guys to tell me what you like about the damn country. What do you like about where you live in Canada or the United States? Call in and give me some positivity tonight. Tell me why you love the country. Tell me what you want to bring back. What is it that you know, when you're out there waving your Canadian flags or protesting or doing whatever you're doing, what is it that you want? What do you want to get back that you're missing? What do you like that you have now that you want to preserve? Tell me. That's what I want to know. Okay, so there's the number. Phone lines are fired up. We're ready to rock and roll at 1-902 200-4222. I'll run this transition, this little promo to reinforce the number. Here we go. Okay, Mavericks, it's call-in time. Join the conversation at 1-902-200-4222. That's 1-902-200-4222. Exercise your right to free speech. Call 1-902-200-4222. Call now at 1-902-200-4222. Maverick News. Call now. The world is watching and listening to you.
Maverick News. The world is watching.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, let us go to the phones. Let me get the system up here. There we go. Now we're in a good position, and we are ready to rock and roll with our first caller of the night. All right, let's bring in Sandy. Go ahead.
Hello, Sir Rick. How are you?
I'm fine. Your audio sounds a little bit low. Make sure you speak right into the mic for me.
Okay. I will. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. I just hope that the people can. I think you're okay. You go ahead.
Okay, great. What I love about Canada? Hockey, food, and tunes.
Tunes.
Tunes, music.
Yeah, tunes. You like your tunes? Canadian music?
Tunes, right?
Like
yeah, Canadian music.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So give me some examples of Canadian music that you like.
Tragically Hip.
Yeah.
Spoons.
Okay.
I'm going old school.
Yes.
Do you remember Rush?
Oh yeah. Well, everybody knows
I know.
Rush. Yeah. Neil Peart.
Yeah.
The drummer.
Absolutely. Who?
Neil Peart.
Neil Young.
You like Neil Young? Yeah.
Oh, Neil Peart.
Neil Peart, the drummer for
like,
Rush.
Who's Neil Peart?
He's the drummer for Rush.
Oh yeah. I was watching him the other night, and I was playing Rush tunes, and it was like, holy crap. We
Yeah,
got
he's
some
amazing.
talent in Canada.
Yes. Yeah, an amazing
He was
drummer.
great, right?
Yeah.
There's some really awesome talent here.
Yeah.
My nephew is 14. He lives in Millbrook. Do you know Millbrook, Ontario?
Yep. I do.
My sister lives there in the family.
Mm-hmm.
My nephew plays hockey for the Millbrook Stars. He went on his hockey tournament. He is goalie and left wing.
Goalie
Okay.
and left wing? How does he play left wing when he's wearing those big goalie pads and all the body armor?
Right? I know. His name is Isaac, and he's my boy. That's my boy.
Yeah.
And he won the trophy. He scored the last goal in the last period, and he won this fucking game. Oh, sorry.
That's okay. That's also very Canadian.
Leo would love it. Oh, fuck, I swore.
That's funny. That's
He's
great.
going to go pro. He wants to be pro, either U.S. or Canadian side, either or. If he gets in, he's passing his school. He's passing everything.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's my boy. And do you remember Don Cherry?
Everybody remembers Don
How old
Cherry.
was he?
How old was he? How old is he?
Do we not all know the Donner? We used to call him the Donner. I remember I always called him the Donner because he was always the Donner. He had the voice. He had the suits, right?
Yeah. Well, he's still out there. I think he
know.
still does some
I
stuff
remember
online, and he's 90 years old now.
Maybe you should bring him on your show, Don Cherry.
Well, I'd love to have Don Cherry on the show. I don't know that he would do the show,
I
but
would love to meet the guy.
so would I.
I used to go to every Toronto Leaf game with my dad when I was 13 years old in the Toronto Maple Leaf Station. It was the best time of our lives in the 1980s and going forward, right?
Yeah.
It was the best time. My last name is Anderson, and they had a Leaf player. His name was John Anderson. I have the Leaf shirt. You know what his number? You know what his number was? 9.
Just like Gordie Howe.
Gordie Howe.
Yeah.
We've got some awesome people in Canada, and I really hope they're still going. You know what? Canada, it's been slandered. They're slandering it too much.
Yeah, it's easy to
When I
focus on
saw
the negative,
Bubble-
isn't it? And
I
you can
know,
do that
it's
with any
too
country.
easy. I focus on. You can do it with any country. You can do it anywhere, and it's just like we're being bombarded.
Yeah.
And I don't like being bombarded with negativity because, like, I've been going through a lot too lately, and I'm just like, when I found out about my nephew, they won the trophy, they won the cup for their team, and they praised him so well. They did an awesome job. They did an awesome job. He wants to go pro hockey, and I really hope he does.
Well, I hope he makes it too. It's very, very difficult. You know, it's only a few make it. If you look at this, statistically, what the chances are of going pro with, for a minor hockey league player to climb the ladder and get to the NHL, very, very, very difficult. Only a few ever make it, really, percentage-wise.
And I said to him one day, if you ever have a shirt, a jersey shirt, put 00 on it, AA.
There you go.
My last name is Anderson.
What's your name? My name is
Our background
Anderson.
family-
Sandy Anderson.
And
00 AA. Secret agent.
00 AA.
Secret Maverick agent.
I know.
Anderson.
It's
Sandy
special.
Anderson.
It's special. It's a very special thing. And you know what? Our children today in Canada, they need the more support than anything else in the world.
Yeah, we need to start sprinkling some of that optimism and pride.
Yeah.
And hopefulness.
Yeah.
And, just.
And if your child is gifted,
Yeah.
if your child is gifted, do something with it and keep it going. Find the objective. Like, I've learned it throughout my life, my entire life, and I'm still learning.
Yeah.
And you know what? It'll work. Eventually, it works. It takes time.
Yeah. Listen, Sandy, we've got
takes a lot of patience.
We're stacking up the calls, so I got to move on. To be fair to
Awesome.
everybody, but thank
And
you for
sound
calling
loud
in.
and clear, love.
Thank you.
Sound loud and clear, love.
Okay. All right.
Bye.
See ya.
Cheers.
Bye.
See
Okay.
ya.
All right, let's bring in our next caller. I think I recognize the number. Go ahead, sir.
Hi, Rick. How are you tonight?
Oh, I'm just fine. How are you, sir?
Oh, pretty good. I really like our country. I do. I really like how you could go camping anywhere you want without getting a fine. Downtown Toronto, downtown Windsor, wherever. Just pitch up tent, live. I like how you could just walk down the street, smoke crystal meth in front of a cop, and nothing happens. I really like it. I do. I'm going crazy now. Okay?
Yeah.
There's really not... You know what? As much positive as I could find in this country, the only thing I get that I really do like is going jet ski in the summertime.
Yeah.
I feel free out on the water, right? It's impossible to, not impossible, but you better have a nice bank account if you just want to go camping up north with your family for the cost of fuel, the cost of food, and then the campsite. Nobody camps for free. If you just pull off to the side of the road, start camping, the ministry would be all over you.
Okay.
Did you know that? But if you went camping in downtown Toronto, well, people are forced to camp in downtown Toronto. Nothing happens, right? So, people getting away with crimes unheard of. Bail for this, bail for that. I don't know what to make of it. But this is not the country I grew up in, that's for sure. And like Sandy Anderson said, well, the kids, this cannot be normalized for the next generation, what's going on.
Okay.
To the kids growing up, this is normal to them? This is going to be normal to them? I hope not. Really, I don't. So I'm not too happy with the way our country's headed. I don't know how to change it. Sit back and take it, I guess, right? I don't know. Enough's enough for a lot of people. A lot of people are at their ends wits. And, even though I know we don't want to see other countries, we're a sovereign nation, this and that. There's no integrity. When you got politicians ripping the people off blatantly and nothing's happening to them, I don't think anything's going to overcome of this Arrive scam. It's going to be washed underneath the table. Okay, he's going to stop any investigation by the RCMP because ultimately the police are working for them. When you got protesters and protesting out front of a hospital in Toronto, a Jewish hospital, and they're scaling the walls like an insurrection. We'll call that an insurrection. And nothing's being done about it. No bank accounts being frozen. Nobody being arrested. Nobody trampled by horses. We got a problem.
Yeah, well, we certainly do have problems, no question.
Right? I don't know what the fix is to it. Really, I don't. The Ford, you didn't play the Ford comments that he made on CTV, right?
Yeah, I don't have a clean video that is copyright free, so I'm not sure where to get it, but I'll see. I'm still seeing.
I'm all about free protests. Yeah, I'm all about free protests, okay, and everybody should have the right to protest. There's spots you shouldn't be protesting. Now, let's say that guy fell off that balcony. That would have been great news. Where would they take him? To Mount Sinai or to another hospital on the other side of the city?
Oh, I think they'd probably wheel him right in there and they'd take care of him. Even though he was out front doing what he was doing. Yeah.
Yeah, so, you don't see any arrests happening over this, but if you protest the government in any form or any shape, and I hate to say this, okay, and you drive a truck or you're just a normal tax-paying Canadian and you don't like the way the government is, they will freeze your bank accounts, they will put you in prison, and they'll do all kinds of crazy things to you. And that's irritating. That's irritating to a lot of Canadians. So I hope to see something unfold in Ottawa this weekend, like a big gathering, even though this weekend is also, Family Day?
Yeah. Yeah, I know
Right,
the
so
big
we have the
reunion
Family
is,
Day happening.
the convoy reunion is happening up there this weekend, right?
Yeah, yep, the convoy reunion and whoever else wants to join, right? Will the Gaza people be there too? Protesting? Who knows? Could it be a clash? I don't know. Could it be a smash? I don't know. Hopefully it's peaceful and everything comes, I don't know. I don't know what to make of any of it anymore, really. I don't. But when I see the shit that I see just walking down the streets now in my city, where somebody hops your fence and steals your lawnmower out of your own garage, breaks a lock, and you do something about it, you're the one that will be charged. You can't even police your own property, right? Sickening, right? So I don't know. I can't wait for the weather to break so I can get out on the water and clear my head.
Yeah, I'm still looking for a clip from Doug Ford, but I don't have anything here that I can run that, as I say, is copyright clean. So I'm sorry, folks. I just don't think I can.
Here's something. Here's something that'll make you laugh.
Yeah.
CPAC came up on my computer, so I turned it on while I was watching your show. And they're on YouTube, okay, live, with 33 people viewing it, Rick.
Yeah.
And that's paid taxpayers media right there. 33 people watch it live, the whole thing. 33 people. Where Maverick Media, you got a few hundred watch it just on Rumble. And who else? Where else? Right? We shouldn't be paying for the media. The media's not the media anymore. For Christine Freeland to sit there and boast how I used to be a journalist and that this and that. Okay, she was never a good journalist, obviously. Obviously, Trudeau really liked how she reported on him. That's why she got a job.
Did you know that she once interviewed Vladimir Putin?
Right. I did not know that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I did not know that. I didn't think Putin would give her I thought he would have vetted that and not even give her the time of day.
Long time ago, she interviewed him, yeah. When she was working in
But
Moscow.
she's blatantly on drugs. She's on something, okay? I don't know if it's pharmaceuticals, Adderall, or whatever, Xanax. She's on something, okay? She's twitching. Her eyes are just bugging out. It's a disgrace. That's what it is.
Yeah. Yeah, well,
look at her way her hands are going.
I have to admit, it is a little distracting to watch her stand there at news conferences and do the head twitch thing. I don't get it. It's weird.
It's embarrassing on the world stage.
I just don't know.
Like people must look at her and go, what's going on here? Really? What's going on here in Canada? We know what's going on. Right? What can you do about it? Hope for the best, pray for the best.
Vote and get involved. Get involved in government. Get involved in the parties. You know, assert yourself. Exercise your agency. Get involved so that your ideas are implemented in terms of party policy, which is then carried forward into government when your guys get elected. Get involved like Rhonda does here locally and other people, and run for council or support people who do run for different positions within government. That's why the other side, if you want to call it the other side, that's why they're winning. It's because they've been so active politically for so long. They're organized and they're integrated, they're involved and motivated. They're out there all the time. So just got to fight.
I'm still waiting on Brian Massey.
Yeah.
I'm still waiting on Brian Massey to call me. And every day that he don't call me, other people are calling me, and they want to go run a train right up his fruity ass at his office, okay, and start protesting.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good MP for you. You go to his office, you ask some questions, you leave your information, and they don't contact you back. That's what we're dealing with.
There you go.
So,
well,
I'm
that's
getting
what
involved. I'm
elections
doing
are
my
for.
part.
You are, sir. You certainly are. And just by calling in,
okay,
that's
move
also
on.
being involved. So
Move on.
Thank you, sir. Thanks for calling in again tonight, Leo. And thanks for sending those messages too, alerting me that the program wasn't firing on Rumble. I appreciate that. Thank you.
It was weird. It was weird when you clicked onto the Rumble thing. It came back to yesterday's show, right? So
yeah,
that's how I knew.
Yeah, I figured out what the problem was. I fixed it. Thanks to you. Appreciate it.
This phone line's working great. I just don't know why you got a Russian area code.
Don't put that out there. The next thing you know, the RCMP will be on my doorstep. Okay, take care, man. See you.
There you go. Bye-bye.
Okay, and let's go to our next caller. Who's on the line now?
Alicia?
Hello.
Hello.
How are you?
I had to call in.
Okay.
Good. And I just love Canada. It's my home. And I would never live anywhere else in the world. Maybe I've been privileged because I'm a country girl and I'm in my own little world too. I have my cattle. I have a beautiful home, and I wouldn't want to live anywhere else. Bad things come and go. Bad people come and go. It'll change. I lived through the senior Trudeau. We got rid of him. We'll get rid of this Trudeau, and the country will be fine. It's the most beautifulest country in the world, and like I said, I would never want to live anyplace else.
Yeah, we have a lot to be grateful for, even though, you know, we have a government that has really kind of messed things up in pretty serious ways. But we've always managed to work our way through things, and I think we will still. And yeah, there's still stuff to be grateful for.
We will.
I admit, like, I don't recognize the country anymore either, just like Leo. But I see the foundations are still there for what we had, what we can rebuild, if people choose that. But when you have bad times, people tend to run for bright, shiny objects and grab sort of the first thing that they see as an alternative. And you also have opportunists out there who take advantage of bad times and try to use that as a way to as an opportunity to gain power and upset things, disrupt things even more, you know. But we have to be careful.
Yep.
We need to be really careful and open both eyes and understand that. I hope that makes sense.
And they have to get back to regulating the people that are coming into Canada.
Yeah.
You see all those Palestine out there protesting, and he's going to bring in 500,000 more of them that's going to do the same thing. Like, that's what's got to stop. And hopefully, it's like Trump said, if you don't want to be Canadian and follow the Canadian tradition, the Canadian rules, then get out of the country and go back to wherever you came from.
Well, that's the thing. A lot of people come here and they don't really want to come here because they want to integrate into the country. They come here and then they want to bring what they have with them and transform the country. And so there's a place for everybody here, but what I'm seeing is it's sort of going beyond just having your own, preserving your own culture, your own religion, your own identity, so that you can live the way you want to live. What I'm seeing is an effort, particularly among some who say want to bring in Sharia law and make that the new law of Canada. You know, or it doesn't matter what the religion or the ideology is. I take exception to people who want to fundamentally transform the country to suit them. I would like to preserve what we have. I'm conservative in that way. I want to build and make better what we already had and what we have, not fundamentally transform it. So, you know, I can get into real details on it, but that's...
Yeah. Everybody thinks that halal meat is, oh, they kill the animals so gently. No, they don't. It's barbaric.
Yeah.
And a lot of people just don't understand that because they've swallowed the bull crap.
Well, even if you look at,
yeah,
you know, they have Sharia approved, you know, financial systems today too, right? So what you're seeing is, and I know a little bit about this, Sharia approved like mortgages because they don't believe in paying interest. It's a sin. And so they have as integrated into their system, you know, an alternative economic system which honestly, as I read through the stuff and I've learned about it, it's to me incoherent. It's contradictory. It's in many respects hypocritical. I'm just talking about the economic system that they've integrated.
Yeah.
But we're seeing parallel legal systems set up in the country instead of one legal system for everyone. We're seeing parallel economic systems being set up here instead of one economic system for everyone. And I suppose that's okay if they can be integrated and are compatible. But the problem is, from where I sit, a lot of these ideologies are not compatible. So in particular, if you're talking about Sharia-based economics, it's a form of socialism that is anti-capitalistic. It's anti-Western. And so people who embrace that are really embracing a neo-socialism that is not compatible with current with Western economics, and it rejects centuries of the teachings of the great philosophers and economists from John Locke to Adam Smith to John Maynard Keynes. It's just, it throws all that out and rejects it. And that is what we're really facing. People don't understand that the people who advocate for this fundamental change really are saying that our economic system has to go, the religious underpinnings of our society have to go. It's an assault on everything that Western society is predicated on. It's a giant threat to our way of life.
And how did that happen? Because we started letting the foreigners into our parliament, so they're getting so that they can change the laws.
It's not so much that I don't have a problem with people coming into the country. I don't have a problem with new people arriving in the country. What I have a problem with is misguided tolerance. We need to be tolerant, but not tolerant to a fault. And I think Canada has been tolerant to a fault in many respects. And that's where political correctness comes into play, and I would say reverse racism, and a denial of what reality is, and critical race theory. And you can link all of these ideologies back to, well, the Sharia law, Marxism, extreme socialism, communism. These are all in direct opposition to what Western society has been built upon. And it's a direct assault on Western culture, our Western civilization. We are in a struggle for survival, and that is the truth. So it's happening over time, and I don't know. That's really what underpins everything that is happening right now, that people are not really fully aware of. And I would say we are not prepared for what is coming because we're not properly educated. We are not worldly enough. We've been insulated from what goes on over in Eurasia. And what's arriving on airplanes and on ships every day, we don't recognize, we don't understand. It's very definitely foreign to us. And I don't mean just the people, but I'm talking about the ideologies, the economic systems, the religion, the martyrdom, the philosophy. It's 180 degrees in many respects to what has built our society. People do not understand it.
Well, it's those people that are coming in that have brought those with them.
Well, of course. I mean, absolutely. And, it's not the people that I have an issue with. It's some of the ideology, some of the politics, leave your damn wars over there. Come here because this is the land of opportunity. This is a new place. Leave all that conflict behind and come here and live in harmony. That's what I want to see. Don't bring all that baggage with you. Don't be out in the streets fighting with each other because you were fighting over there. Come here and live in peace.
And that's what I'm saying. They weren't decently vetted. If they had have been, maybe this wouldn't be going on. But they were just allowed to come in by the hundreds of thousands.
Well,
what have we got, over a million?
We're
5 million
right now. We're
people
bringing
that
in
still
over,
been in?
in real terms, we're bringing in over 1 million new Canadians every year right now under Trudeau. Over 1 million, and I would say this coming year, by the time they do the tally, it'll be probably 1.2 to 1.5, somewhere in that range. It will be a record number, and they can't build houses fast enough. They can't keep up. It's like building 2 cities of London, Ontario every year. That's how many people,
Yeah.
1 million people in a country of only 32 million, I think we're up to now in Canada. So it's too much. It's too fast. Our systems can't handle it. Our economy can't handle it. It's very disruptive. It's misguided. We need to get a handle on it. It's not good for anybody.
I believe he's bringing them in to destroy the country.
I think somebody's trying to destabilize the country, or some actors are for sure. And I don't think that Justin Trudeau is really acting in the best interests of Canada. I think he is a globalist, and he's not focused on what is best for his nation. And that's why we're getting what we're getting. But more than that, there are other countries and political organizations that are constantly working day in, day out to destabilize what is going on here through their actions and policies abroad and domestically. And immigration is one of the main tools they're using, I think, to do it, to put pressure on our economy, on our institutions, on our services, on our dollar, the value of our dollar. They're flooding us on purpose to just put stress on everything and destabilize, because if your adversaries can destabilize you, they neutralize you. If they can neutralize you, then they win over here. While you're dealing with your domestic issues over here and you pull your support for what's going on over there, they win over there. Are you following what I'm saying?
Yeah. And the other way they're trying to break us too is with the food situation.
Mm-hmm.
They did it in the 1800s to the Native Americans, and they're doing it to us too. They want to get us down to, like they said, 1 million people in the world, and they're going to do it any means they possibly can. They don't care.
Okay. Well, listen, it's about that time of the night, so it's time for us to wrap up. I'll just throw it to you for a final comment, and then we'll sign off for the evening.
The final comment is, I know things are really, really bad, but I wouldn't want to live anywhere else but Canada.
All right. Thank you very much for the call tonight. Really appreciate it.
Talk to you later.
You betcha. We'll get you next time.
Bye.
Bye. Okay, guys. That will end the call-in portion of the show. And, it gets us to 9:20 here. Thank everybody for showing up. I wish we could have had a little more positivity in the calls, but overall, I guess we're doing too bad. I will be back tomorrow night, hopefully at 6 p.m. If I'm not here at 6, I'll be here at 7. I just had some technical things that I was trying to sort out, and the phone system seems to be working pretty well there. Just made some revisions to it It's the old system with some changes. So it should be a little bit more cost effective, and it works better than that new system that I was trying to integrate into everything that we do here. But one way or another, we'll keep on keeping on. We'll keep on fighting for freedom here on the Maverick News Channel, where we have the antivirus programs for your mind. Love you guys. Catch you tomorrow on the flip side.
This has been a Maverick Multimedia production.